Standard 2, integrity of capital markets. Here we have two standards, 2A, material non-public information and market manipulation. Material non-public information. Members and candidates who possess material non-public information that could affect the value of an investment must not act or cause others to act on the information. There are some key points here. The first one is the definition of material information. Material information is any information that can impact the value of a security. Another way of looking at it is that material information is information that a reasonable investor would like to have before making a decision on whether or not to purchase a security. Non-public information, as the term implies, is information that is not available to the public. So, for example, if a pharmaceutical company has just received approval from the FDA on a particular drug and that information has not been released, then this would be non-public information. It is also material because the investing world would like to have this information when deciding whether or not to invest in that particular pharmaceutical company. According to the mosaic theory, it is appropriate for investment analysts to make decisions or make recommendations based on material public information plus non-material, non-public information. Many students get confused about the concept of non-material, non-public information, and the best way to understand this material is through examples. I'll give you one example from the curriculum, and then obviously you need to work through several examples. There is a discussion in the curriculum on an investment analyst who is studying a particular company in the furniture industry, and this analyst not only studies the public disclosures of the company, he also goes and speaks to several furniture retail outlets, and based on interviews with the furniture retail outlets and the public disclosures of the company, he comes up with a recommendation. Now, the information that he gathered from the retail outlets would be classified as non-material, non-public information, because what he gathered after speaking with the retail outlets is not really public information, but that information in of itself is not material either. So the key point is that research advised or investment decisions based on public information and non-material, non-public information is appropriate. Social media. The point here is that often we think of information that is presented on the internet as public information. However, with social media, we can have several closed groups. For example, on Facebook, there can be a closed group, or there can be closed groups on LinkedIn. If you, as an investment analyst, participate in a closed group on Facebook or on LinkedIn and receive information through that mechanism, then obviously the information that you are getting is not public information. It is part of a restricted group, so it would still be classified as non-public. Using industry experts is appropriate as long as you are not getting material non-public information. And if you do get material non-public information, then obviously you should not act on it. You should not cause others to act on it. Going back to my simple example related to the pharmaceutical company and FDA approval. Let's say that you speak to a pharmaceutical expert and somehow you find out about the fact that this company has just received FDA approval, but that information has not been made public, then you are not allowed to act on that information. Investment research reports. This is an interesting point made in the curriculum where, let's say you are a well-known investment research analyst, and generally when you issue a buy recommendation, then the stock price is impacted. So is the fact that you are going to issue a buy recommendation tomorrow material non-public information? It might appear to be, but there is a caveat. Your buy recommendation, which will be released tomorrow, is, let's say, based on the mosaic theory and has been funded by a particular client. Given that this report was created based on public information and non-material, non-public information, it is okay for your client to get the benefit of this research and buy based on that research. Coming now to recommended procedures for compliance, and there are several procedures given in the curriculum. I'll summarize each of them. The first one has to do with achieving public dissemination. As investment analysts, we need to do whatever is possible to ensure that non-public information, especially material non-public information, is disseminated to the public. This might involve speaking with the issuer and asking the issuer to disseminate the information. If that doesn't happen, then we as investment analysts can report to our compliance department or legal department, but we should certainly not act on that information. Adopting compliance procedures, we need to encourage our firm to adopt compliance procedures related to material non-public information. The specific procedures will obviously depend on the size and nature of the firm. Adopting disclosure procedures, we need to ensure that disclosure procedures are fair and equitable. So larger clients, for example, should not necessarily be receiving information before smaller clients. Issuing press releases. Generally, when there is material non-public information which is being released for the first time, doing so using press releases is recommended. Firewall elements. This is important from an exam perspective. Firewall elements refers to things that a company can do to prevent information flowing between different departments. Earlier, I have spoken about a brokerage firm with a research department and an investment banking department. The firewall elements that I'm going to describe briefly help prevent the flow of this information. Now, reading from the curriculum, where we have 4 particular firewall elements. Number 1 is the following: substantial control of relevant interdepartmental communications, preferably through a clearance area within the firm in either the compliance or legal departments. Number 2, review of employee trading through the maintenance of watch lists or restricted lists. Number 3, documentation of the procedures designed to limit the flow of information between departments and of the actions taken to enforce those procedures. And number 4, heightened review or restrictions of proprietary trading while a firm is in possession of material non-public information. Next, appropriate interdepartmental communications. The main point here is that there should be procedures in place concerning interdepartmental communications. There should be a review of trading activity, and there should be an investigation of possible violations. If violations do occur, then the appropriate disciplinary measures should be taken, and the entire procedure needs to be clearly documented. Physical separation of departments to whatever extent possible. If material non-public information is relevant in the sense that it can flow between departments, then ideally the departments should be physically separate to prevent the sharing of files and so on. Similarly, there should be no overlap of personnel, because if you have somebody who straddles both departments here, the research department and the investment banking department, for example, then obviously it will be easy for non-material information to flow between these departments. A good reporting system is important. The primary objective is to establish a reporting system in which authorized people review and approve communications between departments. Personal trading limitations. Firms should consider restrictions or prohibitions on personal trading by employees and should carefully monitor both proprietary trading and personal trading by employees. Record maintenance. Firms that offer multiple services should maintain written records of the communications between various departments. This way, if there is a potential violation, then the records can be studied. Proprietary trading procedures is a little bit complicated. The idea here is that in defining these procedures, the nature of the firm and the size of the firm needs to be considered. Communication to all employees. The point here is that the relevant policies and procedures related to material non-public information should be clearly and effectively communicated to all employees. That is it in terms of Standard 1A. Now work through the examples. Standard 1B is market manipulation. Members and candidates must not engage in practices that distort prices or artificially inflate trading volume with the intent to mislead market participants. Clearly, an activity such as this would violate the integrity of capital markets. Broadly speaking, we can have either information-based manipulation or transaction-based manipulation. Information-based manipulation is where an analyst is pumping information into the marketplace either through blogs or some other mechanism that artificially inflate or deflate the price of a security. So spreading rumors or projecting unsubstantiated and artificially large earnings numbers, for example, would be information-based manipulation. Transaction-based manipulation is where transactions are taking place in order to artificially show that a security is more liquid than it actually is. When market participants perceive a security to be more liquid, that has a positive impact on the price. But obviously, if that liquidity is artificial, then that would be an example of market manipulation. And I'll give you a simple scenario of how this might happen. You might have a large firm with offices in Chicago and New York, and the Chicago office might be selling a particular security and the New York office might be buying the same security. The next day in the Wall Street Journal, it might appear that the liquidity of this security is up, but the reality is that it's just up because of trading within a given firm. This would be transaction-based manipulation, which would be a violation of Standard 2B. Those are the main points related to 2B. Now work through the examples. That also brings us to the end of Standard 2, integrity of capital markets.